Good morning, afternoon, evening, whenever you see this. This is Dee with Older INFP Insights, and today we're going to be talking about ADHD and being INFP. Is it that you're an INFP or is it that you have ADHD? This is something that I see regularly on YouTube, and I have done this before in meetups, and more people came for it, and it's like I have a feeling that a lot of INFPs are diagnosed with ADHD. A lot of people are diagnosed here in the States with ADHD, particularly kids. So this is what we're going to be talking about. I'm going to take a psychological view of this. I'm going to be turning into less of an INFP today. If you're new, welcome. And I love the comments, and just be respectful in the comment section below. This channel is for those who are INFPs and those who want to understand the INFPs a little bit better. So, my background, as a lot of you know, been following me, is in mental health. What I didn't tell you specifically some of the things I did, but the job I loved the most was working as a in-home therapist with kids, mainly with kids who are 6 years old and were diagnosed with ADHD. I will tell you why it was 6 years old is because that's when you usually start to school and these behaviors are noticed. And the second thing is about that, I will say, is 6-year-old kids are supposed to be bouncing off the walls. It's just to what degree. If a child isn't very active and they don't have much affect, then used to in the day, we said, well, then they need to be assessed. But now if they are active and they are talking out of place and they are this and they are that, then they've got ADHD. And I have seen it in so many cases. A lot of it's parenting, not blaming the parents, but I did a lot of family therapy. And so I saw a lot of kids who have ADHD. And that was an interest of mine because there's ADHD in my family, and that's true ADHD, where you shouldn't be disruptive and bouncing off the walls when you get older, and you can't. So today I'm going to say how. Oops, got my computer going on over here. I'm going to say how you get an accurate diagnosis of ADHD, and it's going to be kind of cut and dry. A lot of people watch these videos about the MBTI because that's their psychology. There are other parts to psychology. We're going to be talking about the DSM, which is how you diagnose. Anybody who diagnoses anybody, folks, and is qualified to diagnose folks with mental disorders, use the DSM Diagnostic and Statistical Manual. I see we're on number 5. When I was practicing, it was DSM-3. Now we're on the DSM-5 because I got my computer running. So that's what I want to get into today. You have to have a lot of criteria before you have the actual diagnosis of ADHD. And I think, just from my mindset and from my experience, way too many people have the diagnosis of ADHD. I was diagnosed with ADHD back about 2 years ago, in my 70s still, without testing from a psychologist or psychiatrist. Just a primary doctor said, I told my primary doctor that a psychologist thought I might have it and I needed to be tested, and he said, oh, that sounds good, I'll write it down. So I have the diagnosis from hearsay. This is how it's done. This is how people get labeled. Another thing I want to say about ADHD is that it comes into a mental disorder. And if you listen to me for very long, you can agree or disagree. I really, as an INFP, don't care. I've done a lot of studying on this. I've done a lot of living on this. I do not think ADHD belongs as a mental disorder. It is thought now and known now that it's neurological. We're learning more and more. If you don't buy into the traditional Western medicine, that I do not, you can click off if you like, which divides the brain and the body, doesn't integrate anything, doesn't look at anything else, doesn't. I'm more of a functional medicine person, that I'm finding out about functional medicine, looking for the root cause, and then going from the root cause and not just writing people subscriptions for pills. And that's what we do here in the States. I know I have an international audience. Put in the comments below what you do in your country, how it works. But in the States, just go in. And if you're on Medicare, you only get 10 minutes with your doctor. So they go, they take vitals, they take blood samples, and then they write prescriptions. That's basically it. You go to specialist. I have been to about every kind of specialist. I'm tired of that, so I'm looking into nutrition, looking into functions, I'm looking into everything. But getting back to ADHD, ADHD actually is a condition based in neurology where people are hypersensitive. So yes, I agree that INFPs are hypersensitive. People with ADHD are hypersensitive because their nerve endings, this is from a scientific point, their nerve endings aren't insulated to the extent of everybody else's nerve endings. For an example, now what does that look like and what am I talking about? If you know anything about electricity and electrical powers and lines, just look at all your chargers for all your electronic devices, anything you plug in, your appliances, they come wrapped, the wires are wrapped in whatever they're wrapped in, I don't know, if it's plastic, it's heavy plastic or whatever, they're wrapped. Internal wires to your home and buildings are also wrapped. Okay? It's wrapped to protect the electricity. Same thing with your body and your nerve endings, and your nerves. They are also wrapped. And people with ADHD, they don't have that thick covering. Doesn't mean they're not wrapped, but they're finding out the last few years or so that they are not wrapped. So it is a neurological condition. So yes, there are going to be people who are INFPs who have ADHD, but it doesn't automatically mean one or the other. As for myself and a lot of people that I know who are INFPs, they think they all have ADHD. They don't get tested. You need to be tested, run through the test. Nobody minds being tested for the Myers-Briggs or any of the personality tests. It's not done as much with diagnostic tests for what they consider mental disorders. I do not consider ADHD a mental disorder. It's a neurological disorder. And that's saying from somebody who's just lived it and studied it, and I've worked with it for over 20 years. Maybe it could be both. We got to put it somewhere, but I would put it more into neurology more than psychology. But in order to get the diagnosis, and I'm getting along here, in order to get the diagnosis, and I'll run this screen if I can from my computer so you can just screen shoot it and look, you have to have certain criteria before you can have the diagnosis of any mental disorder from the DSM. Okay? I'm going to read them to you. That's the end of what I have to say. I'm just going to read it to you and then just show it to you to take down later. So you can see, I will gather, I'm going to make a bet, and I have no way to make a bet. This is just me talking now. I'm just talking as me. Make a bet that a lot of people out there who think, not who've been formally diagnosed, who think they have ADHD, who say they have ADHD, and some people who are on medication for ADHD really do not meet these criteria and really are being, like me, diagnosed from a primary doctor who took my word that a psychologist said I might have it and need to be tested. This is how this happens. In the States, at least. I'd like to hear your comments from your experiences. I'd like to hear comments from around the world, too. Here we go. Number 1, inattention. Okay, INFPs have a lot of inattention. Inattention, but you have to have 6 or more symptoms of inattention for children up to age 16 years old, 5 or more for adolescents 17 and older, and adults. So under inattention, you have to have at least, I'm talking to adults here, you have to have at least 5 or more of these for at least 6 consecutive months, okay? And are inappropriate for the setting. That's important too. So it has to be 5 or more of these inattention behaviors that are inappropriate for the setting and has lasted more than 6 months. Okay, number 1, often fails to give close attention to details or makes careless mistakes in schoolwork, work, or other activities. Often has trouble holding attention on tasks or play activities. Often does not seem to listen when spoken to directly. Often does not follow through on instructions and fails to finish schoolwork, chores, or duties in the workplace. Often has trouble organizing tasks and activities. Often avoids, dislikes, or is reluctant to do tasks that require mental effort over a prolonged period of time. Often loses things necessary for tasks and activities like school materials, pencils, books, tools, wallets, keys, paperwork, and so forth. Is often easily distracted. Is often forgetful in daily activities. You have to have 5 of those, because I'm talking to adults here, 5 or more of these for at least 6 months and are inappropriate for the setting. You have to have that. You also, number 2, hyperactivity and impulsivity. 6 or more of hyperactivity, impulsivity for children under up to age 16, or 5 for adolescents and adults. Hyperactivity has been present for at least 6 months to the extent it is disruptive or inappropriate for the person's developmental level. So, hyperactivity and impulsivity you have to have for at least 6 months that is disruptive and inappropriate for the person's developmental level. And it has to be present for at least 6 months. Which is often fidgets or taps hands or feet and squirms in the seat, often leaves seat in situations when remaining seated is expected, often runs or climbs about in situations where it's not appropriate, often unable to play or take part in leisure activities quietly, is often on the go, acting as if driven by a motor, often talks excessively, often blurts out an answer before a question has been completed, often has trouble waiting for their turn, often interrupts or intrudes on others, butts into conversations or games. In addition, the following conditions must be met. Severe inattentive or hyperactivity impulsive symptoms were present before the age of 12. Oh, not so severe, I take that back. Several of them have been shown before the age of 12. Several symptoms are present in 2 or more settings, such as the home, workplace, school, with friends, with that kind of thing. 2 or more settings, not just in one setting. 2 or more settings, okay? Several symptoms. There is a clear evidence that the symptoms interfere with or reduce the quality of your social, school, or work functionings. Severe limitations and disruptions to your functionings. The symptoms are not better explained by another mental disorder, such as a mood disorder, anxiety, personality disorder. The symptoms do not happen only during the course of a schizophrenic or other psychotic episode. Okay? So you have to see. So see, it's not that easy to say, well, yeah, I'm restless Yeah, I don't want to do what other people say do. I talk out of turn. It's not really all that easy to be diagnosed. You have to have a lot going on in several different areas and several different settings for an extended period of time. So that's just what I'm going to say. I know this is cut and dry, probably a lot longer than I wanted it to be. But I wanted to put it out there that no, INFPs are not automatically ADHD. They do overlap. It is an overlapping thing. I'm going to throw this out there that it's a neurological disorder. I think a lot of INFPs, I will have more on this, or we're highly sensitive people. A lot of highly sensitive people have the same things going on with their nerves, with their nervous system. It's all the same. It's all, we're stemming it back. I'm getting back to the functionality of it, the functional medicine, the root cause. A lot has to do with neurology and not what we think. So, yeah, put in the comment section below. I am going to leave with giving the shot. It shows up on my computer. If it doesn't, I'm sorry. I'll take it out if it doesn't. You can look at it more often. Look it up at the Diagnostic Statistical Manual for Mental Disorders. DSM, we're on the 5th edition. Okay, so I hope you liked. If you like, share, subscribe, comment below. I'd like to know your comments. These are my thoughts about it, about ADHD and INFP. I think a lot of it is INFP, but if you have ADHD, be sure to be properly diagnosed from the proper source and not just as me with hearsay. So, until next time, stay safe.